In the Bible, it says, "In the last days will come perilous times of great stress and trouble, hard to deal with and hard to bear. For people will be lovers of self and utterly self-centered. People will be arrogant and contemptuous boasters, self-inflated, loose in morals and conduct." So we can easily recognize the end of times going on in our society and the dawning of a new age. We're going to discuss an ascended way to approach communication and how it flows through our lives. This has a giant impact on every area of our lives. Let's start with a simple review. When it comes to your social life and your intimate life, do your loved ones contact you primarily for the following reasons? To inquire about your well-being, to lighten your load with support and care, to bring good news for the purpose of adding joy and laughter to your day, to celebrate and honor you by sharing in the details of your journey, to extend loving words of comfort, to uplift or soothe your spirit, to inform you of something interesting which they thought you would personally appreciate or find valuable. If these are not the primary reasons that people in your closest circle communicate with you, then you are most likely hearing from folks who are wounded, who haven't done their inner work to heal from painful or traumatic past experiences, people who haven't yet elevated to a more conscious relational aptitude, people who tend to spend your most valuable currency, your time, energy, and attention, benefiting whenever they're granted access to your wellspring of sacred life force energy, but without reciprocally fortifying your field of existence. Or perhaps what I've just described is your tendency, and you're coming into awareness of it now. People are taught how to treat us by the integrity of our conduct and the firmness of our boundaries. If we're loose with our standards and principles, or if we're flexible and wishy-washy about our values and self-worth, we leave available space for people who are self-oriented rather than service-oriented to take advantage of our compassionate nature, to complain about issues they have no plans to actively resolve, to temporarily fill a void of loneliness inside of them, to use us as a sounding board. So our involvement or lack thereof with those people are opportunities for people who contact us mainly for self-centered reasons to become mindful and become accountable for their output, meaning their energetic hygiene, their intentions, and their contributions to others' lives. It seems obvious that our closest relationships should be healthy, respectful, and balanced. However, we find that that's not always the case. And when reaching a certain level of consciousness, we must assess the quality of the people in our life, the nature of the communication from those people, and determine if their communication aligns with the aforementioned attributes of goodness and love, and if our well-being is at the forefront. If not, then it's important to check in with our own willingness to set a new precedent, and to do so with peacefulness and divine assertion. By carrying out this process, it becomes very apparent whether we're moving through life with people who are tagging along as empty company or dark clouds around us, or whether we're moving through life with people who are investing purposefully in the limitless expanse of the being that they're alongside. Precious, magnificent you. What it is that conscious assessment and discernment result in is more commonly we'll find ourselves being explored and honored by our intimate counterparts. This becomes our most natural, dynamic, and creates a fresh norm. We are meant to honor and explore one another. Let's dive into what a lot of people may be wondering as they listen to this material, perhaps thinking that what's being presented sounds nice and wouldn't that be ideal, but how is it realistic to implement in the following real-life scenarios most of us experience at some point? Like, what if I've known someone for a long time, or we're around each other so often that it's boring rather than intriguing? I still love and care about this person and want them in my life, but it's not a particularly stimulating connection anymore. Boredom does not arise when awakened minds and open hearts coexist day after day in states of curiosity, creativity, playfulness, appreciation, and genuine care. As there is always new soil to water with healing touch and encouraging word sound, there is always new treasure to be discovered by way of gently mining for it in the caverns of another person's consciousness, or by allowing the other person's purest, godliest, least programmed, and most loving self to shine through from the depths, revealing their gifts and treasures. This intrigue occurs within consistently safe spaces of full presence. Without co-creating consistently safe spaces of full presence, it doesn't work because all parties involved must be willing. Therefore, a commitment to this one act, a commitment to exploration, is a life-changing decision to see the big being in front of us as we would a small child, using eyes of pride and adoration and celebrating them as they realize more about themselves and the great mystery. By committing to exploring our loved ones, we relieve ourselves and them of the pressure to conform to something we feel we need to be happy. We relieve them of the pressure to entertain us in order to keep our interest or attention, which is a reason why people generate different facades and personas to satisfy different people, and they never really get to melt into their true essence. And we relieve others of the pressure to settle into roles that appease our preferences, make us feel comfortable. A commitment to exploring our closest loved ones, our best friend, our spouse or companion, our offspring, our students, whoever's lives we have a direct impact upon, is an honoring of a high and glorious truth, which is that we are sharing the human experience with ever-evolving beings. This experience of human life has no end when it comes to our development while we're here. Another thing we may wonder about is, well, what if we raise children with someone or operate a business with a close loved one, and the communication is often regarding logistical information? It isn't positive or negative in nature, but more so pertains to neutral facts about things that need to be tended to, events happening in real time, unromantic, unemotional, and just needing to be conveyed to the other party involved. Like, our son's soccer practice has been canceled. Will you pick him up from school? My meeting is running late. Or communication of, hi, we received an influx of orders on our website and we'll need to hire a temp to fulfill them in a timely manner. Can we discuss this via phone at 2 p.m.? When we're not reaching out to communicate something specifically for the purpose of enhancing the other person's life, which was the premise of the list mentioned in the beginning of this material, what is to be said about everyday communication of a logistical purpose? Well, we are the ones who can choose to infuse love, light, and spiritual magic into every transmission. Whether a text, a phone call, an email, talking to someone in person, nothing has to be mechanically or mindlessly carried out. Nothing has to be only informational and logistically oriented. Nothing has to be mundane. We may not yet be accustomed to living at a higher frequency bandwidth, but the effect of doing so is immeasurably positive. We were born into ways of thinking, functioning, and communicating that didn't have well-being at the nucleus. Those infrastructures, systems, and collectively accepted ways of living ironically lack vital aliveness and contradict the essence of our physical lives, which are about far more than functionality and efficiency. There is an acclimation process to the new ways we are now choosing to engage with communication to and from others, and this acclimation and cooperative participation only occur through the steady practice of the guiding points being spoken about in this discourse. We have the option to balance the energetics of something that we're asking another person to accommodate for the greater unit, to accommodate for the family at large or the business or the whole of whatever we're doing together. In the example of reaching out to a co-parent for them to pick up the child because the child's extracurricular activity was canceled, we recognize in that scenario that yes, plans change, and yes, we must be flexible because we're both mutually responsible for another human being. But if we're appealing to the other person's logic, if we're appealing to logic and reason alone, then communication is devoid of the other aspects of our being, which are sensual and sensitive and intuitive and need tenderness. We can feel the undertones of a request or a conveyance about something. So while it may be understood that it's more reasonable for one party to accommodate the other in communications of an informative and logistical nature, okay, but we can still express love and appreciation for the accommodation by offering an incentive or a thoughtful act of kindness that would make the other person smile or feel special. These are small but meaningful day-to-day touches we can put upon any interaction we have. Now, we don't have to make everything perfectly even and balance everything all the time. But the offer to balance the energy reminds our loved ones that we're not functioning purely on expectation or else, because that would be conditional treatment. Adding words of appreciation is an act of recognizing another person's value in our lives and their worthiness in general, which produces more successful and compassionate relationships of every kind. So in the previous example, if we need the other person to pick up the child or do something at a time that would move them away from what they were doing, we can balance it by saying, I really appreciate that. And hey, I'll cook whatever you'd like for dinner tonight. Just let me know so I can pick up the ingredients before coming home. It makes them feel special. It allows a person to remember that we're not just here to function. We're here to connect and thrive. It's amazing if we really think about the politeness, respectfulness, and courtesy we extend to strangers or acquaintances while becoming less considerate within our closest bonds that have existed for years. What a subtle yet profound shift we can make in our communication style with our colleagues or our family members and friends by expressing how thankful we are for their gifts, how much sweeter life is because they exist, how much better the circle of life goes because of their input and help along the way. Otherwise, these sentiments are commonly saved for emergencies, for deathbeds, and eulogies. It doesn't have to be this way. Another scenario we may wonder about is, well, how do we deal with people who sincerely love us, but their way of showing it actually conveys a controlling spirit? First, we must understand that a person loving us with a spirit of control stems from that individual's fear of what would happen if the other person didn't follow their guidance or criteria for living. It may trigger insecurity in them or anxiousness that the person could stray from them or no longer love them or totally abandon them, whether it's rational or not. I mean, a person could become empowered and rise into a state of original thinking that leads them naturally in a different direction. Or a person could eventually grow into a desire to be sovereign and self-governed, and then start to feel displeasure or resentment towards the loved one whose controlling nature they once tolerated and allowed. The point is, There are unlimited, fear-based reasons that can be conjured in the mind of a rigid or controlling person. So the loved one whose communication displays a controlling spirit can be given an opportunity to evolve by being brought into full awareness of the way they speak or behave, how it's received, how it feels on your end, and finding out if they're open to learning new ways of expressing their love and care. If they're not willing, you can proceed accordingly however you see fit. You can distance yourself, you can try again in the future, you can cease to interact with them. If they are receptive and willing to change, you can share with them verbally or in written form healthier examples of communication that have proven effective in your life, in your relationships with other people. In closing, take a look at the quality, the nature, and the intentions of the primary communication you receive from people you're most personally involved with. Assess everything with honesty, including assessing your own willingness to change or invite others to change. Set a precedent through your conduct, your boundaries, and your involvement with others or lack thereof that allows a clear conveyance of how you choose to live and creates opportunities for lesser aware loved ones to evolve alongside you. Even if for a time you're the only one you know doing so, or you haven't yet connected with soul tribe who live in this way. Even so, purposefully infuse higher consciousness and your soul's nectar into your communication transmissions, with the knowing that this is one powerful form of medicine, of alchemy, that can transform and refine the characters who appear in your life, the main vibe of your existence, and the type of movements you can start or become a part of. It is by demonstration, exploration, and appreciation that we birth a new age of loving communication and happier people.